Death toll in the Moscow terror attack rises to over 150, over 100 injured. ISIS claims responsibility, but Russia says there's much more to the attack. Vladimir Putin vows to punish terrorists and groups responsible for the Moscow attack, claims Ukraine link. Global concerns over the Moscow terror attack. Did America warn Russia about an impending attack? Arrested in the liquor scam, Arvind Kejriwal moves the High Court in Delhi, calls his arrest illegal, seeks an urgent hearing on Sunday. What of words as Arvind Kejriwal continues to stay in ED custody? Aam Aadmi Party claims political vendetta. BJP questions the links emerging. Congress cash deals under scanner. BJP hits out, says the party failed to comply with income tax rules. Thank you for joining us on the biggest story tonight. I'm Niranjan. Russia being subject to one of its biggest ever terror attacks. Over 150 people killed, and that number could change. As per the latest reports, at least 150 have been killed in the terror attack at the concert hall in Moscow last night. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, addressing his country a few minutes back, spoke about the attack and the attempt being made by his agencies to get to the bottom of the attacks. He also made a few very, very critical mentions of what we know so far, saying that some of the attackers found a natural haven in Ukraine while fleeing, hinting that they were trying to flee into Ukraine after the attack. We're waiting for more details. In fact, there are more videos that are also emerging of the attackers reportedly confessing to the killings and taking a bounty, to taking money to murder civilians inside the concert hall. We'll get you those pictures and those details as well. Let me go across to our panelists. We have two special panelists joining us on the show this evening on the biggest story tonight to get a sense of how Russia is looking at it. We have Tatiana Kukoreva. Tatiana is joining us live from Moscow. She's a very senior journalist there. And joining us from Kiev is Volodymyr Solovian, who's from the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. I want to go across to Tatiana first to get a sense of how Russia is dealing with this. Saw those pictures, horrifying videos, Tatiana, that came in last night of these gunmen entering that hall, spraying bullets at everyone who had gathered there. Give us the update of what we know so far, as you know it this evening.
Well, Naranjan, as you know, India is a bit ahead of us in terms of time, so it's still early evening hours in Moscow. I just literally passed one of the centers that receives donations, blood, and there are people lining up to give blood to those affected by this terrible attack. It's a somber mood out here, obviously. It is the deadliest attack in Moscow on Moscow to date, if I'm not mistaken. But you know this from history. We're no strangers to such attacks. So people are, it always brings people together and kind of unites them in this sense of, as a community, as a people, really.
Tatiana, when Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, addressed his country, your country, a few minutes back, we were listening to his speech very carefully. He made a few mentions of Ukraine, saying that some of these terrorists and even the suspects were trying to flee into Ukraine, found a natural refuge in Ukraine. Is there a larger role possibly that he's hinting at of Ukraine itself in the attack?
Well, look, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, although I would hate to speculate right now because we're still, we don't have any results of the investigation. The investigation is obviously very much underway. It was less than 24 hours ago right now. So we need to get the facts. There have been videos published of the suspects being interrogated, and they do on those videos confess to accepting the job, but they also say that they don't know who exactly contacted them specifically. There was no names, etc., etc., etc. But we also know, and this is very much a fact, that they were apprehended just 100 kilometers away from the border with Ukraine. So if you look at the facts, then. And obviously, it doesn't take a genius to understand that it would be a very natural refuge for them, seeing as that we are at war. So I believe that's exactly what the president was referencing. As of right now, we are waiting for official results of the investigation. And I am actually very, very interested in what exactly the remaining attackers tell during those interrogations.
Yes. Well, let me get in a sense from our panelists in Kiev as well. Volodymyr, there is a video, and first of all, let me get your response to what Vladimir Putin said and what Tatiana just said. That it is not really rocket science. She said it's not really rocket science that they were found close to the Ukrainian border. I'd like to get your response first of the developments so far. Volodymyr.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that according to the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, the border between two countries is a very secured place because of sabotage attacks from Russia, and also President Putin told about so-called window in the border, which terrorists were attempting to use to go to Ukraine. But anyway, the location where they were catched, the forests in Bryansk region, in particularly those regions, several Russian planes were hit not far ago by Ukrainian missiles. And those locations are on around-the-clock surveillance of Russian drones. That means that there were no purpose for these terrorists, and especially for Ukraine, to have some contacts with these terrorists, because Russia would have a clear evidences of such ties, which is obviously unverified rumors right now. And I think that Russia didn't have any evidences at all. And the main goal for Vladimir Putin is just to distract Russians from Putin blame on
1 second.
representatives
1 minute.
of
Are you
Central
even trying to
Asia.
remotely... No. 1 second. Volodymyr, are you trying to even remotely try and suggest that this was engineered? Is that what he's trying to say, Tatiana? Some
It sounds that
conspiracy
way,
theorists from the West
unfortunately,
are
it
trying
does
to
sound that way,
spread this theory.
And Niranjan, let me just tell you, this is a very interesting fact that Vladimir seems to be very ignorant of, that the length of the frontier between Ukraine and Russia in that region is over 300 kilometers long. So you cannot possibly suggest, and this is the region that has been facing constant attacks where terror groups would actually cross that border and attack Russia. So you cannot possibly suggest that this is under constant 24 hours, surveillance of every square meter of that border. I mean, seriously, this is ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous. And it's actually, this defies any common sense, any reasoning, any humanity to say that something like this could be engineered. This is offensive at the very least. But I'm not surprised that it's coming, from that side of the border, really.
Well, it is very right to hear.
And there is a video, and I want to ask you about these videos
on Russia, because it is Russia who blowing bombs into Ukrainian villages in Ukrainian regions, and it is Russia that occupies Ukrainian territories and imposing genocidal war against Ukrainians.
Do you know the definition of genocide?
Tell us about empathy.
Yeah, but
because Russia do the same things. Russians hit Ukrainian cities. Many ordinary people were killed, not militants, but civilians.
How many?
With Russian drones and Russian missiles.
Have the numbers, Volodymyr.
So don't tell us about empathy.
How many? Can you give
According
us
to
any numbers?
United Nations estimations, about
Not United Nations estimations, Ukrainian estimations.
Civilians were killed after Russian large-scale invasion.
Now, Volodymyr, I don't think you should talk about the United Nations. I'll tell you why you shouldn't talk about the United Nations. I'll tell you. In recent example, and I'm sitting in New Delhi, right? Let me tell you something, Volodymyr. You please don't quote the United Nations. See what happened in Israel, right? Do you know how many terrorists who walked into Israel and sprayed bullets on Israeli citizens? Do you know how many of them worked with or were associated with the United Nations agencies? I mean, it's a joke. You can't ask the world to look at United Nations as a credible agency, but that's not the point. That's not the point. I don't want to get into that. That's
don't tell me what is the
Tatiana,
point.
I want to come to the videos
estimations of
these
United
terrorists.
Nations.
There's a second video.
This is the numbers of United Nations.
No, please.
Don't underestimate.
I'm saying you can't trust the United Nations in the first place. You cannot trust the United Nations in the first place.
Whom to trust, please.
You cannot. I don't think Putin trusts the United Nations as much as you do. Tatiana, but I don't want to divert from the subject. I want to ask you about the terrorist, these videos that we have, these videos that we've accessed, where some of them are heard saying that they were hired for 500,000 rubles, some saying that they came in from Turkey, some saying that they were from Tajikistan, they were hired. What do we know so far of these terrorists?
Well, Niranjan, the problem is for us, speculating on the videos right now is that we do get those videos and they are circulated on social media. But unfortunately, we need to, as journalists, you and I, we have a responsibility and we need to wait for the facts when the investigative committee actually puts forward those facts. I'm seeing that, that some of them confessing to leaving their arms, specifically on the way, dropping them to try to escape. But still, we need to get the facts straight. We need to understand that it's only the official information that gets released that we can really discuss. That is a huge problem, actually, the fact that there's so much information is getting circulated that we're getting lost in reports that then are confirmed not to be true,
Can I then ask you whether Russia is taking it with a pinch of salt, the fact that ISIS has claimed responsibility? Do you take that at face value? Do you think there's more to it when there is an attempt to distance Ukraine There is an attempt to distance Ukraine. Immediately, America jumps in to distance Ukraine. Ukraine tries to distance itself. So are you not taking any of this at face value? Does this mean that there could be something more to it?
Definitely. I mean, seriously, this is ISIS claiming responsibility for this attack yesterday. If we were in a situation where something could be funny in this horrendous attack, is this, I mean, ISIS in Moscow in 2024, it sounds like such a ridiculous thing to even suggest. Why Moscow when they have other countries that they would be much more inclined to attack.
Yeah.
It just, it just sounds
Volodymyr, I'll get the last word from you. Yeah. It does sound funny because I heard they claimed responsibility last night within hours of the attack. Even before all of them were picked up. Volodymyr, I don't think anyone's buying this ISIS theory. I'm not sure about that.
We do not have clear evidences of any involvement of ISIS. I mean that may be even a provocation of Russian special security forces. We're witnessing that at the beginning of 2000s when Russians mobilized their society. Kremlin mobilized Russians during the Second Chechen War. But anyway, this is a speculation right now to put the blame on ISIS or any other part. However, regarding Ukraine, I may note that Ukraine...
on what basis are you saying these are Russian special forces? I mean, how are you making these statements? I'm just surprised. Every time someone from Kiev comes on the debate...
against Moscow.
This is preposterous, to say the least, Niranjan.
I find it amusing that each time... Yeah.
This is how, I'm sorry to say
Tatiana,
this, but Ukraine has to prepare its propaganda artists way better. At least teach them proper history. This is the very least. If I can give an advice to the other side, then please prepare the people better. Teach them history. Make them read proper history, not Ukrainian history.
Your history is freely at all. You're waging a colonial war in 21st century. Don't teach us history.
Darling,
Russia
your country
is a terrorist
didn't
country,
exist.
and do not put a blame on a victim of your aggression. No.
This is ridiculous to hear. You don't understand the meaning of the word colonial.
Kremlin overslept terrorist attack, and there is no purpose to put blame on Ukraine
of your own country, and you don't know the geography of your own
country. There is no purpose for Ukraine to undermine its support from our Western partners.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I'll wait for more details to come in before I speak to Tatiana and Volodymyr once again. Tatiana and Volodymyr, thank you for joining us and condolences to the people of Russia for the attack and the 150 lives that are lost. The Prime Minister of India has also spoken about it. The people of India are close friends of Russia and also Ukraine. And 150 people shot dead in cold blood, many of them killed at a point-blank range. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, spoke a few minutes back. Let's play that out.
And we already have some results. All the 4 perpetrators were directly involved, who were gunning people down, killing people. They were found and apprehended. They tried to escape. They were moving towards the border with Ukraine. And we have data that suggests that they were about to be moved towards the territory of Ukraine by those in Ukraine. Our military services, our emergency services, our investigators are working on finding out the orchestrators of this terrorist attack, those who gave them transportation, who created created, who gave them weapons, etc. The investigative authorities will do everything to identify all details of this crime, but it's already evident that we face not just a cynically organized terrorist attack, but a mass killing of civilians. These perpetrators, these criminals, went specifically to kill people, point blank, our people, our children, just like the Nazis that once killed our people during the war. They do the same. All the orchestrators, all those who are responsible for this crime will inevitably be found responsible. They will pay. We will identify everyone who stands behind these terrorists, and they will pay. This is a strike against Russia. We know what terrorist threat means, and we expect that other nations that share our pain will cooperate with us, and we will stand united against this common enemy, international terrorism, no matter where it shows its ugly head. These terrorists have no nationality, and there's only one future for them: retribution and oblivion. Our duty right now, our common duty right now, is to stand together, to stand united, and I believe we will stand together. Nobody can divide us, can undermine our common strength, the strength of Russia's nation, or sow discord in our multinational society. Russia has faced a lot of challenges in its history, terrible challenges, but it always came out stronger, and this will be the same this time.
The death toll in the Moscow terror attack has risen to over 150 as per the latest reports. Nearly 200 people injured, according to the Russian media. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has tried to hint at possible Ukraine links to the attack, calling it a planned mass murder of civilians. Here's a report of what unfolded in Moscow last evening.
About 20 kilometers from the Kremlin. 2 weeks after US issued warning to Russia of a possible attack. And 3 days after Putin dismissed the warnings on imminent attack on Russia, the country faced one of its worst terror attacks. At least 115 killed and over 140 injured. President Vladimir Putin has linked the terror attack to Ukraine. He has vowed severe punishment for the terrorists while declaring National Day of Mourning.
And we already have some results. All the 4 perpetrators were directly involved, who were gunning people down, killing people. They were found and apprehended. They tried to escape. They were moving towards the border with Ukraine. And we have data that suggests that they were about to be moved towards the territory of Ukraine by those in Ukraine.
Watch as gunmen stormed the cinema hall, opened fire, and later set the venue ablaze. A shooting spree was initiated by unidentified gunmen armed with assault rifles in the concert hall of Crocus City Hall. Listen to the eyewitnesses recount the panic and chaos that engulfed the hall when the attack began.
Выстрелы были именно не какие-то разовые, а это были именно очереди. Автоматные очереди, постоянные. В этот момент, естественно, мы уже встаем и пытаемся двигаться в сторону прохода. Люди начинают паниковать, просто бежать, сталкиваться друг с другом. Кто-то падает, кто-то наступает друг на друга.
While Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Putin is receiving regular updates about the shooting, the US has issued advisory to its nationals in Russia.
The images are just horrible and just hard to watch, and our thoughts obviously are going to be with the victims of this terrible, terrible shooting attack. And I think, you look at that video if you have, and you got to recognize that there's some moms and dads and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters that haven't gotten the news yet. And this is going to be a tough day. So our thoughts are with them. You might have also seen, hopefully you saw the State Department or embassy there put out a notice to all Americans in Moscow to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that, just for their own safety. They should stay put where they are and stay plugged into the State Department for any additional updates and information.
The ISIS has claimed responsibility. But the question is, why did the US intel warning go unnoticed by the Putin government? Agency report, Republic TV.
Taking a break on the biggest story tonight, Arvind Kejriwal has moved the Delhi High Court asking for relief and a Sunday hearing. Congress cash dealings under scanner BJP hits out, says party failed to comply with income tax rules.